They'll call me sir and madam to the killer. Cuts me Come on in and sit down.
The CIA censors certain information that the government didn't want out there.
So much of Orwell's writings ring true today.
The US just took massive steps into a cashless society.
We don't need currency anymore. It's purely a digital concentration camp. It's a slavery system.
75 years ago today, a book was published that left a huge mark on British literature, culture, and society. As a novel, its themes and considerations are taught in schools across the world. While its enduring relevance means it's still regularly referenced in politics and the press. Written as a warning for the future, that book is, of course, 1984 by George Orwell. Behind me is Senate House Library. Orwell's wife worked here during the war, and the building became the inspiration for the Ministry of Truth in the book. What is so deeply concerning is that a piece of political fiction intended to guard against a nightmarish future, many of the dystopian predictions Orwell made are coming true. Despite its name, the Ministry of Truth is a state department that manipulates and alters facts and information to serve the interests of the party. It is guided by the principle that he who controls the past controls the future. He who controls the present controls the past.
We meet the protagonist, Winston Smith, who is writing a diary, a forbidden act, in the dystopian world of 1984. Winston lives in a London controlled by Big Brother, whose face is everywhere. It's a bleak, run-down place, rife with food shortages, violence, and danger at every turn. Winston works at the Ministry of Truth, where he edits the past in order to fit the party's vision of the present. During the rising action, Winston observes a dark-haired girl watching him a number of times, and it turns out her name is Julia. At one point, Julia passes Winston a note that tells Winston she loves him. They rendezvous in secret, and their relationship becomes closer and more intimate as they embark on an affair. Mr. Charrington is a working-class person or prole who Winston likes and trusts. O'Brien, a party higher-up whose intelligence and cunning Winston finds admirable, invites Winston to his flat to loan him a book. At O'Brien's flat, Winston and Julia confess they want to join the Brotherhood, a rumored revolutionary group that stands against the party.
Winston be reading some book that O'Brien gave him when, bam, the 5-0 come busting through his door and bag him and his homegirl. Turns out that fool O'Brien was secretly part of Big Brother's thought police crew. And let me tell you something, homeboy. These fools ain't playing. In order to realign Winston with the party's mentality, O'Brien be torturing Winston until he admit the crimes he ain't even done. Then O'Brien be like, yo, we ain't even done up in here until everything be dead inside you. And after you empty, we gonna fill your ass up with big brotherly love.
Cuz.
But Winston say, nah, shorty, I keeps it real. This be one of them instances when keeping it real goes wrong, cause that boy O'Brien slings Winston's ass in the wackest torture chamber your bitch ass ever heard of. Room 101. So O'Brien puts a cage full of rats all up in Winston's grill until he gives in and starts screaming, do it to Julia, not me. In the end, the man takes all the souls straight out of Winston. He only loved Big Brother. Damn.
In 1984, everyone is required to have a television set in their home, which, as well as pumping out state propaganda, also watches and listens to their every move. There was, of course, no way of knowing whether you were being watched at any given moment. Today, you're watched by a vast network of intelligent surveillance systems. You're tracked by your personal devices, monitored by social media platforms, and targeted by invasive corporations. You may not know their names, but they know yours. Every decision is collected and archived somewhere by someone. Vast networks of CCTV cameras have steadily been wired into the towns and cities that we live in, watching our every move without us knowing who is behind them, and now something much worse is happening. Police and private companies are integrating facial recognition software with these cameras so they can tell who is walking in front of the camera. Now Big Brother is not just watching you, but recognizing you and tracking you too.
How many in our audience has heard of Operation Mockingbird?
The sharing of biased and
false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming.
Chirp, chirp. All of the news channels apparently say the same thing. They're going off a script. Over 50 different news channels nationwide saying the same exact thing.
Well, it's okay. You can admit it.
If you bought an item or two
Or 10 for yourself. It's okay. You can admit it. If you bought an item or 2 or 10 for yourself, it's okay. You can admit it.
Former CIA officials and some lawmakers called for a congressional inquiry that became known as the Church Committee. Published in 1976, the committee's report confirmed that some earlier stories, more than 400 U.S. press members, had secretly carried out assignments for the CIA, including the New York Times. The U.S. major news agencies had for many years served the eyes and ears of Operation Mockingbird, which functioned as a dissemination CIA propaganda through domestic U.S. media.
San Antonio's Jessica Headley.
And I'm Ryan Wolf.
Our greatest responsibility is to serve our Treasure Valley communities, the El Paso, Las Cruces communities, Eastern Iowa communities,
Mid-Michigan communities.
We are extremely proud of the quality, balanced journalism that CBS 4 News produces.
But
we are concerned about one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts.
Because language designed to evade responsibility, make the unpleasant appear pleasant, the unattractive appear attractive. Basically, it's language that pretends to communicate, but really doesn't. It is language designed to mislead while pretending not to. Doublespeak is not a slip of the tongue or a mistaken use of language. It's exactly the opposite. It is language used by people who are very intelligent and very sophisticated in the use of language and know that you can do an awful lot with language. Is it true that you can put sugar-free on a product and still have sugar in it? Is probably the one question I've been asked most often, because people simply can't believe that happens.
How can it happen?
Because sugar-free simply means they haven't added table sugar or cane sugar to it. They can add mannose, fructose, any of the syrup sweeteners, and still call it sugar-free.
So, when you eat something that's sugar-free, there's sugar in it.
Oh, yes. And by the way, I found out in a radio interview when they had people in the audience calling in, a man called in and said that there's sugar in there. I said, well, yes, there's sugars in that food. He said, well, I'm a diabetic. She buys only the sugar-free. I said, you can't eat those. You have to use only the dietetic because that's governed by law. Sugar-free isn't. I think the most important point in 1984 is that power grows not out of the barrel of a gun. Power grows not out of the thought police and rule by terror. It grows out of the power of language in that novel. There are times when we simply cannot tolerate this language. When we talk about important public issues of national policy, we should not use doublespeak as a nation. We should not use it ourselves. We should not allow the politicians who are speaking to us to use it. Language that way can be terribly corrupting in a society and can mislead all of us. And in a democracy that depends upon the active participation of its citizens, it can lead to cynicism and resentment and a withdrawal from the political process.
Does that have anything to do with the reason why only 50% of the American people voted in 1988?
I would love to be able to track the pervasiveness of doublespeak as it grew, along with the decline in voting. Because the reaction I get to doublespeak from a lot of readers of the Quarterly Review as they write to me is, well, of course I know this language. I see it all over the place. I see it all the time. But, what else can you expect from politicians? They all lie. They all use doublespeak. It is that cynicism which leads to there's nothing I can do about it, so people withdraw.
They alleged that went away in 1976 when George H.W. Bush, who, by the way, was a longtime CIA operative, which he covered up, they put him as director of the CIA and came out and did a news conference saying, well, this is an official statement. The CIA will no longer pay journalists to plant stories in papers. But then people missed the last part of his statement. From now on, it will just be voluntary. The CIA has a whole lot of ways to make something voluntary a necessity. So it continues. It continues today. And a good example of that is the Total Information Awareness Program, where AP, UPI, Washington Post, Google, Facebook, especially Google and Facebook, signed an agreement with the CIA to censor certain information that the government didn't want out.
And welcome to Channel 1.
a new way of consuming, reporting, and thinking about the news.
The nominees were announced via live stream featuring a group of previous Grammy winners, including Kim Petras, Jon Bon Jovi, and Weird Al Yankovic.
Christmas Day brings the Tony Award-winning Broadway musical, The Color Purple.
Now you can see it's still a little off. The voices don't perfectly match with the mouth movements, but I mean, it's way too close for comfort. Here's why this is so scary to me. AI-driven news networks can be completely controlled by a single individual behind the scene, all without you knowing their name or face. That's zero accountability. The narrative, the language, the stories, all designed and broadcasted in a matter of minutes. It can be translated to 100 different languages with the click of a button. And as these publications become broadly available and merged in with the rest of human-made media, it'll become really hard to determine what's real.
The term newspeak is used by the regime to restrict freedom of thought and control the population. The language is used to hide the truth by creating false realities which serve to confuse and censor the public. Many forms of authoritarian policies in politics are introduced under the guise of public safety. But in reality, they'll be used for much more state overreach. The UK government's Online Safety Act seeks to regulate social media companies by forcing them to monitor and censor our online speech more than ever. The Act introduces powers that give state backing to big tech's censorious terms and conditions, forces tech companies to scan private conversations by undermining encryption, the technology that safeguards privacy, and forces companies to monitor all of our online communications. What is described as being for our own good by those in power could end up coming back to bite us in many unexpected ways. There's a famous saying, 1984 was not supposed to be an instruction manual, yet so much of Orwell's writings ring true today.
This is supposed to be a warning, not a handbook for 2025. Big Brother will not tolerate dissent, even in the mind. The Ministry of Truth in London will make sure that you believe what you're supposed to believe, and the thought police will uncover every act of betrayal. This is supposed to be a warning. Let's hear what the minister in charge of the Online Safety Act is telling us in 2025.
This is the biggest step forward in child safety since the internet was created. That's why we've acted so decisively in this. And for everybody who's out there thinking of using VPNs, let me just say to you directly, verifying your age keeps a child safe, keeps children safe in our country. So let's just not try and find a way around. Just prove your age, make the internet safer for children, make it a better experience for everyone.
All of these companies are taking your data, and how long do you think it's going to be before there's a breach of some of this data? Probably not very long. So a little bit disconcerting that 1984 is supposed to be a warning. It shouldn't be happening in 2025 in countries such as the UK and others. Australia, this has been looked at in the US, Norway's looking at this. Different countries around the world are looking to implement this kind of stuff to control.
Big Brother is the name of the totalitarian leader in 1984. His image is used to create fear and enforce discipline into the population. Big Brother is the guise in which the party chooses to exhibit itself to the world. The emergence of digital ID could have one of the biggest Big Brother surveillance effects on our society in the future. Digital IDs can be misused for mass surveillance, curb people's liberties, predict and shape people's decisions, and be abused for the tracking, targeting, or other differential treatment of ethnic minorities, religious minorities, and other marginalized groups. The databases these systems are tied to are all-knowing. If tied with a facial recognition system, a digital ID would mark a whole new era of surveillance as we know it by getting rid of any form of privacy we have in public life. Not even Orwell could dream of this dystopian future. That's why digital ID must never be mandatory in the UK.
Facial recognition, the system can only be so accurate. So sometimes they give it false positives, sometimes not.
Because I'm involved with something?
No, just because you simply look like someone else, that's something. That's what it actually means.
Isn't it worth it, yeah? Because your face has been recognised on here, all we need to do is run some checks over your name, okay?
Since the Met started using live facial recognition, 85% of all the matches it's got have been wrong. While in South Wales, this figure is 90%. Big Brother watchers observed at deployments people who should not have been on watch lists being stopped by the police.
Where she goes, Oh Young Hallyu is followed. What she buys, how she behaves, is tracked and scored to show how responsible and trustworthy she is. It's called the social credit system, and in one version now being tested, a person's reputation is scored on a scale of 350 to 950. And Hallyu, with a good score of 752, is okay with it. In fact, most people are.
Is a mechanism like pushes you to become a better citizen?
It's big data meets Big Brother. expanding how the government monitors, understands, and ultimately controls its 1.4 billion citizens. Thanks to advances in artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and a web of more than 200 million surveillance cameras. Are people bothered by privacy concerns?
We think the lack of camera keep the safety is really good. We can accept it.
Companies are experimenting with the algorithms to help the government create the new national social credit system. The government also has pilot projects. In one, citizens are required to do hours of unpaid work to get benefits. And scores are docked for things like littering, a messy yard, gossip, even jaywalking. Video of offenders is shown on the local news. And information collectors like Zhou Aini are paid to report on their neighbors. Her quota, 10 entries a month. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. A good deed, she says. Good social credit gets rewarded with perks like cheap loans and travel deals. But a bad score means public shame and worse. Huang Huijun lost a court case and didn't pay. Now he's on a government blacklist. I can't buy airplane or train tickets, he says, and the list goes on. Being discredited makes it hard to get a job or put kids in top schools. The social credit system will go nationwide next year, and few here are willing to criticize it. Something that may pose a risk itself for a bad score and the life that comes with it.
In China, there are some 600 million surveillance cameras, one for every 2 citizens, able to track people's movements down to the minute.
Every street corner, there's facial recognition, there's digital recognition, there's the social credit system. The social credit system is the sort of highest aspiration of the Chinese Communist Party, to have everything every human being does go into a computer system. And with AI and all sorts of other sophisticated programming, you can know exactly where a person is because he'll have bought something with a credit card or a digital payment system. His car will have gone down a highway. Every kilometer, there's a camera taking pictures of your license plate. They will know everything about everybody real time. This creates a kind of a techno-autocratic system that's unprecedented and with which we've had no experience.
In 1984 is the act of thinking outside the limits of what is accepted by the party. The thought police are tasked with stamping this out and cracking down on freedom of thought. Now, more than ever, governments are finding new ways to police dissent through obscure technologies used to cut off financial streams. What we spend our money on can offer deep insight into our most private information, including our political leanings, health issues, family issues, charitable deeds, and even the private information of others.
The digital pound would be like an electronic version of the banknotes issued by the Bank of England.
The Treasury and the Bank of England has been pushing for a central bank digital currency, or CBDC, which could allow transactions to be recorded and kept in a core ledger. Anyone with access to the ledger, from public authority to hacker, could access personal, transactional, and identity.
Digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote.
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer, and here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming, yeah? And here's a quote from the article. This isn't the Telegraph, the one he pulled up, but it was behind a paywall, so I'll just read the quote. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible.
Holy shit.
Now, I'm going to take it one step further for you, Joe, right? So they bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go, using vouchers that are programmed and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system. That's what it's called. And anyone who watches Black Mirror will know what I'm talking about. That's that TV show, right?
Yeah.
So what they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer. Second most powerful person other than the Prime Minister and maybe the Foreign Secretary in the UK, right? He's telling us, I just played it there for you. He's telling us that's what he, as the UK, the head of the G7, want to bring in for the G7. So a scenario where, like in New York at the moment, because the passport infrastructure is in place, you bring in that digital currency and you've got this total control. And if I'm speaking to you the way I'm speaking now, and my employer or government, you heard that in the quote directly, yeah, deems me as saying or doing something inappropriate, suddenly I can't actually pay to come here and speak to you anymore. My digital currency won't even pay for the ticket because it will be known that I'm coming to speak to you.
People miss this, but the US just took massive steps into a cashless society.
The Genius Act was passed, which is setting the groundwork for a centralized digital currency system right here in the US. It's being framed in a way to make things faster, boost innovation. It's apparently a lot cheaper and modernize society. Of course, it's always, for your good. And although, yes, it may be cheaper and it may be faster, cheaper and faster doesn't always mean better. But here's what else they're not telling you. With a central bank digital currency, every transaction can be monitored, every dollar can be tracked or restricted if they so choose. And if it sounds like control, well, it kind of basically is. This is probably a good time to say this video is for entertainment purposes.
They can program a digital currency to mean you can only spend it on certain things and you can't spend it on others not designated by the government. And it's programmable so it can only be spent in a certain area. So if you go outside of your zone, your money won't work. And not only that, when you go past one of these number plate cameras, when you quote shouldn't, you won't be able to challenge the fine because the fine will be taken out of your digital account the moment you transgress. This is what's happening. Now, these digital currencies are called central bank digital currencies, CBDCs.
Abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new accounting is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy.
We are shifting to a new financial system, but the general population is not shifting to a new financial system. It's shifting to a control grid.
CBDC can allow government agencies and private sector players to program, to create smart contracts, to allow targeted policy functions. For example, welfare payment. For example, consumption coupon. For example, food stamp. By programming CBDC, those money can be precisely targeted for what kind of people can own and what kind of use this money can be utilized.
A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations, and also we will have the technology to enforce that.
They're saying we can control with rules. We don't need currency anymore. And so it's no longer a financial system or a currency system. It's purely a digital concentration camp. It's a slavery system.
Reading 1984 by George Orwell. It is a dystopian novel. The official language is newspeak, a language that has only a limited vocabulary and grammar, so that you can totally control the population because the range of expression is by construction limited. I think the reflection of this in today's world is in the form social media takes. Twitter, TikTok, or even YouTube Shorts. It didn't happen on the vocabulary side, but on the attention span. Everything today needs to be short. Intellectuals on TV sets need to express their point of view in less than a minute, which seems to be setting them from the onset to failure. When conditioned long enough to short duration media, people simply lose their ability to focus. And once they lose it, you can more easily control them. I think Orwell chose a dreadful end to the novel instead of an optimistic one is because he wants us to be scared and prevent that ending at all costs. We are risk-averse creatures in that we have evolved to be more terrified by losses than by gains. A dreadful end will make us more sensitive to the creeping of totalitarian traits than a happy ending would have done.
What is up? What is up? What is up? Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, whoever you are, wherever you are. I always say, stay to the positive, never to the negative. Always remember that. Go up in the day, baby. You play, you only get one life to live. You better live it for today. That's facts. Stay ablaze, stay amazing, stay true, stay you. No matter what you're doing.